Let's get ready to HD Rumble!
Y'all ready for this?
Hello and welcome to the second episode of Hello Nintendo, the official podcast of our Nintendo. I'm Matt, aka Trainas, your host. And with us today, we've got a few new voices. Some new members of the moderator team are joining us today on the podcast. With me today are Ben, aka Razorbeams.
Hello.
We've got Harrison, aka Frobro.
Hey!
And we've got Michael, aka Awada Fan.
How's it going?
Thanks, guys, for joining me on the podcast today.
You're welcome.
So to get things started, when we've got some new hosts, we'd like to do a host expose. Razorbeams.
Yeah.
What is it that you do for the subreddit?
Well, I've been modding the subreddit for a little over 3 years now, so I'm kind of a veteran. I'm one of the big 3 veterans right now, I guess you could say. And I do a little bit of everything. I do a lot of work in the auto mod. I do a lot of work just removing things that are bad that get posted in the new queue and approving things and that kind of stuff.
So, Razorbeams, what was your first gaming console?
My first gaming console was actually a Game Boy Color that I got in about 1998 for my 7th birthday.
Right on. And what is with the username? How did you come up with that username?
When I was about 16, I was like, hey, what would be a cool username? How about this? And I've kept it ever since.
Okay, that's different for sure. What kind of games or what have you been playing in the past week?
Lately, I've been playing through Uncharted, the Uncharted series. I recently got a PS4 for Christmas, and I got the Nathan Drake collection in Uncharted 4, and I've just been blazing through Uncharted. I'm about 2/3 of the way through Uncharted 4, and I'm almost done with it.
Right on. Now, when you're not moderating, when you're not hanging out on Reddit, what kind of things do you do? What are some of your hobbies?
That's a good question. What am I not doing when I'm not on, or what am I doing when I'm not on Reddit? That's a rare time. I like to play games, of course, and I go over to my friend's house, and he has a bunch of arcade games and things like that, and we play those.
So, Awada Fan, what is it that you do for the subreddit?
Well, I moderate the content of the subreddit, so hosts as they come in, and also there's a lot of side projects that go on behind the scenes, and I'm jumping in a number of those and having a good time doing it.
Right on. What was your first console?
My first console was the Game Boy Color, and well, you know what? I'm sorry. It was actually the Game Boy Pocket. The Game Boy Pocket. So I have this silver Game Boy Pocket, and I believe a copy of Link's Awakening and Super Mario Land 2. And before then, every now and again, my sisters let me play their Sega Genesis, but that was a rare occasion.
Did you ever kind of prefer the Sega to the Nintendo systems, or have you always kind of been a big Nintendo fan?
I've been with Nintendo from the beginning, so yeah. I mean, I enjoy Sega, of course, but by and large, I've been very Nintendo-centric for the most part.
Cool. So, what have you been playing this past week?
This past week, I am trying to finish up Skyward Sword just in time for Breath of the Wild, and it doesn't look like I'm going to finish, but I hope I do. We'll see what happens.
Well, good luck.
Oh, yes, thank you.
So, the username, how did you come up with that username?
Well, I needed a new username about a year or two ago, and it was right around the time that Iwata had died, and so there was a lot of stories out there about his life and legacy and things of that nature, and he ended up being a very inspirational person to me, as I'm sure he is to many people. So I felt so inclined to just say, hey, I'm a fan of Iwata, and that's how it happened.
Nice. And when you are not moderating or on Reddit, what do you get up to? What are some of your hobbies?
Well, my main hobby would be beyond gaming. There's guitar playing, and in addition to that, I just do a lot of programming is what I've really been up to recently.
Are you making anything interesting?
No, not at this point. I can make a few calculators and things of that nature, but nothing too impressive yet. I'll get up to real software soon enough, I'm sure.
The world always could use more calculators, especially on mobile.
And on the iPad, where there isn't one by default.
Yes, on the iPad.
So, Calculon, do you want to set up this clip from all my circuits?
No, I think it's self-explanatory.
So, Frobro, what is it that you do for the subreddit?
Thanks for asking, but before I answer that, I'd like to hear my man's Embassy Nordcore add in Etching Odyssey 4, the Slarga Day theme. That's my man right there. Shout out to Embassy Nerdcore. I do Sticky Threads, Smile Sunday, and Talk It Out Tuesday. And I usually use Reddit for my phone, so I don't actually do a lot of removals, but I do report and do approval on posts that don't break rules.
Cool. What was your first gaming console?
My first gaming console was the Sega Genesis.
Oh, we've got an enemy in our
Oh,
midst.
wow. It's like that? Jeez.
Well, I mean...
Yeah, you say that, but I'm a Sony fanboy.
Oh, it's
so.
even worse. It's two. Mind you, Sega's gone third party. Nintendo's still around doing hardware. So much for Sega does what Nintendo don't.
What is wrong with you, dude?
So what games have you been playing in the past week?
Actually, you just caught me. Just looking at my 3DS now, the game in it is Shin Megami Tensei 4.
It's a good one.
Yeah, it's got that Atlas difficulty where it's kind of famous for being hard because the game's not fair.
Right on. So what is with the username? How did you come up with that?
Oh, well, see, I'm a black dude, right? And I got an afro. So I'm a afroed brother, if you will, a fro bro. And as for the in part, the truth, if you go online, there's a lot of people going by fro bro. And rather than being something like fro bro 103 or something similar to that, I decided I needed something that helped me stand out from these other fro bros. So I selected the truth because, well, obviously I'm the truth. And these other fro bros are just theirs. And everybody knows it.
Nice. And so when you're not moderating or you're not on Reddit, what are some of your hobbies?
I like taking long walks on the beach and watching romantic comedies, watching the sunset. Nah, actually, I got an aquarium. I play video games. I play keyboard for churches sometimes. Actually, every week.
The truth has set me free.
So, in the past week, I've been trying to finish playing Twilight Princess HD before the Switch comes out. It does not look like it's going to happen. It's just becoming a bit of a struggle. Last episode, I mentioned that this is my third playthrough, and it's like pulling teeth at this point. So, it's probably going to become a game that I'll eventually finish at some point later down the road. But yeah, in addition to Twilight Princess HD, I've been also playing some Quantum Break and Final Fantasy 15, which is helping me with a voiceover project that I'm currently working on. So we're going to get the podcast underway. We're going to start off with, I'm going to hand things over to Frobro with some Nintendo news.
Yeah, the first news we've got here is the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild expansion pass. There'll be 2 pieces of DLC. One comes out in the summer of this year, and then the other in the winter, probably December-ish. It costs $20. They can't be bought separately. And there will be 3 new chests. They've got unique clothing. One of them's a Nintendo Switch t-shirt, even on the Wii U version. The summer pack will have a trial challenge, the Cave of Trials, and a new hard mode that I think might be getting misinterpreted these days. I think they mean it's an entirely new mode rather than a traditional harder mode. And the winter pack will have a new dungeon and a new story. I want to ask what you guys think. Let's start with Ben.
Yep.
How do you feel about the way Nintendo's chosen to do DLC add-ons for Breath of the Wild?
Well, first I want to say that the subreddit is not happy.
Yeah,
about
absolutely
this.
on fire.
They are furious that this exists. And I can understand why to an extent, because, you know, it's a new thing. Nintendo hasn't really done it too much. They did it with Mario Kart, but Mario Kart was cheaper. But also, we don't know how big these expansions are yet. If they're going to be $20, it's going to be pretty big.
Yeah, I think so too, but a lot of people just don't want to give Nintendo the benefit of the doubt and would rather just go into instant rage mode, as we see a lot on the internet. Matt, what do you think?
I'm going to be cautiously optimistic. I mean, if you take a look at what the DLC was like for Mario Kart and how good it was, it almost felt like adding on, you know, a whole nother game because it came with 4 extra cups, and then you ended up getting a bunch of new racers, things like that. So it was almost like an additional half a game that got added on, and those tracks were awesome. Absolutely loved playing them.
Specifically, like the F-Zero ones, those were real nice.
Yeah, the F-Zero tracks were probably some of my favorite ones. That and Hyrule as well. I quite like that one.
And the Excite Bike track.
Yeah, the Excite Bike track, and I mean, we could go and you might as well just list them all because they're all awesome. So, but you know, I think if the DLC for Breath of the Wild is going to be like how it was with Mario Kart, it should be pretty good. That Cave of Trials sounds like it's taken. Didn't Twilight Princess HD have something very similar? If you had the Wolf Link,
I think I know what you're talking about.
So it sounds like it could be very similar to that, which shouldn't be too bad as long as it offers some really good challenges. But I think the biggest thing is going to be how much content there's going to be. Like, if they're just adding a couple extra dungeons and it'll feel like they just stripped it out of the game just so they could kind of do the season pass. But if it adds a whole ton of more content, then it should be okay.
All right, and finally, Michael, how do you feel about the Breath of the Wild expansion pass?
Well, I've been thinking about it a lot, and overall, I'm okay with it. Here's my thoughts. Games have been approximately $50 to $60 for the past 20 years, I think, and naturally, you would expect production costs to have increased, and yet, for the most part, games are still selling at $60, and so I think we've seen the introduction of DLC not only because customers are buying, but also because it's one way to cover the additional costs that must be occurring. So, Breath of the Wild is a large game. It was developed over, I believe, at least the last 5 years. So, it makes a lot of sense to me that Nintendo would find some ways to further monetize it. I just hope that the DLC is really good, because the Cave of Trials, for instance, in Twilight Princess HD was pretty cool, but it felt pretty small to me. And it came with the game in the sense that if you bought the game with the Amiibo packaged, which I think you can even still do right now, you basically got the quote-unquote DLC for free, just with the cost of the game. So hopefully what's included in the DLC, namely the new story, the new dungeon or dungeons, hopefully those will be pretty robust and justify the $20 price point. In any case, I know I'm buying. So I'm looking forward to it no matter what, but here's hoping that Nintendo delivers.
Moving on to the second news topic, we got the Splatoon 2 Global Test Fire. It runs from March 27th to March 29th. It's 6 different 1-hour time intervals. It'll have all the new things. I mean, they're not locking content from behind it. It'll have the dual pistols, the new weapon, and all the old weapons coming back. Anyone here play the first game's Test Fire?
I think I was able to get into one game, but just with how badly and how much Nintendo servers were getting hammered, I spent most of my time playing that little squid jump game than actually playing. So I wish I could have tried the, I wish I could have tried playing it before, but I ended up just spending most of my time on squid jump.
Yeah, I can understand that. And what about you, Michael?
Yeah, you know what? I actually had a fairly good connection. I got really lucky. I think I was able to get in, who knows? I don't even know how many, but it felt like I didn't have a lot of lag time. And, I mean, I gotta say, it was a really cool experience. It definitely sold me on the game. That little NES-like jump game was freaking awesome, and so it was a lot of fun, and luckily I was able to avoid any technical difficulties.
Yeah, I had a similar experience. I actually kind of ignored it until the last day, because I think it auto-downloaded to your Wii U, if anyone remembers that. So I didn't download it, it was just on there, and my cousin was over. He's asking if I played it, and I told him I hadn't, and he told me that thing was about to start, the final one, so I played it, and I remembered having a really tough time with the paint rollers. I mean, that was the noob killer, as they called it, where if you were new at the game, everyone was, so like, people were complaining that the weapon was completely OP. As the game went on, it seems people figured it out, but I enjoyed the game, but it was plagued by scrubs getting bodied by a pretty easy weapon.
Yeah. The thing I'm most excited about for Splatoon 2 is that it's local multiplayer. It has local multiplayer, because the first one had a local 2-player mode, but it wasn't really good. It was like a, you gotta brace to pop all these balloons kind of mode. And it wasn't really like a normal 2-player mode.
Why couldn't they put in a regular 1v1? What was up with that? Or at least throw AI in it if they're going to be like that.
They were really determined to make sure that we're playing against other people. Nintendo has always been known to make pretty weird decisions, kind of artificially limit the capabilities of their games. For whatever agenda or purpose they have, it all depends on the game, and for Splatoon, they made it really hard to be able to play one-on-one or even to play with friends sometimes. It was pretty difficult to arrange that, so I'm hoping that in addition to the local LAN stuff, we're able to be better able to play against particular people, maybe form better teams.
Before we move on to the next thing, I want to ask how you guys felt about the amiibos. What they did was they unlocked some special challenges, and once you completed them, you were given access to, I believe, Squid Girl gave a schoolgirl costume, Squid Boy was the samurai, and the regular Squid was something so lame I forgot it.
Yeah, I think it was like the armor from single player or something like that.
Oh, yep, that's what it was. Yeah, remember I said it was lame and I forgot it? That's what it was. Yeah, their function was they gave you access to, I think, one new song each, and basically a sound test, which is it is a function.
Yeah.
Maybe one that should have been in the base game.
Yeah. I have the boy and the girl, but I don't have the squid.
I ended up with the Inkling Girl, Inkling Boy, and the Squid. They all came in this one pack at, I think, early on when they first came out. And so I was able to use them on the content that they unlocked, and as I recall, and our users will correct me if I'm wrong, I think the Squid in particular unlocked this mode where you could kind of revisit the adventure mode areas, and I forget if it was some sort of collectathon, tasks that you had to complete, or some sort of speed run, but it unlocked some additional modes that allowed you to revisit them, those areas with a new spin.
Oh yeah, there's one more thing. They added mini games for the load screens. The Splatoon Jump wasn't the only one.
So thanks very much, Robo, for going over the news with us. We're going to pass things on over to Razor Beams, and let's take a look and see what's been going on in the subreddit.
All right, so first thing, the big thing everyone's been talking about, somebody on NeoGAF leaked the Switch UI. He got a Switch early. He doesn't have any games, he just has the console. And he leaked the UI, and he showed the whole menu and everything. So when you boot it up, it actually does the Switch click. You know, the one from the commercials. Yeah, that. And it's got a way faster boot up than the Wii U's. And it looks like you can actually change the theme. In his menu, there were only basic black and basic white, but maybe in the future there's going to be a theme store. The base console had 25.9 gigabytes of storage accessible. The UI almost looks like the Android UI in a little way, and it kind of has a material design feel from Android. And it uses the touchscreen, so you can actually push the buttons on the touchscreen. You don't have to use the D-pad and stuff. Things like parental controls are in the console. And it also has user profiles like the Wii U. So you can use a Me icon or you can use a Nintendo character icon, and you can have up to 8 accounts on your Nintendo Switch. And your downloads are tied to your Nintendo account, just like they were on the Wii U. We don't know if you can log into someone else's Switch and access your games, kind of like you can on the PS4 and like you can on the Xbox One. And it has a sleep mode. It has an option for a full RGB color range, whereas the Wii U only had limited RGB color range. And yeah, that's basically all we know so far. So Frobro, do you have anything to say about that?
I mean, it's a menu, looks tight, pretty minimalistic, typical Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
Not impressed.
Why aren't you impressed?
It's a menu. The hype train gets derailed too often. I guess I'm not hype enough to get crazy over seeing an actual menu.
How about you, Michael?
Well, you know what? The menu looked beautiful. It looked crisp. It was a very intuitive UI, very slick and all that stuff. And so I was happy with it. There was no major surprises. There were a lot of concepts floating around before this leak. I'm particularly happy with the themes and with the greater freedoms we'll have with the Nintendo account. Because on the 3DS in particular, that was pretty limited. You could only have your account tied to one 3DS, and that one 3DS couldn't have any other account on it. The Wii U had up to 6 accounts allowed, and now we have up to 8. So I'm sure that'll be pretty useful for some folks.
It was kind of a problem with the Wii U because you had to log in as someone else. I mean, if you wanted to log in on someone else's Wii U, you actually had to call Nintendo and say like, "Hey, Nintendo, can you move my account to this Wii U instead?"
You could do it yourself. I don't know if they actually even had an app in there that was a Wii U transfer tool, but I think basically if you disconnected your NNID from your Wii U, it would delete all your games from that Wii U system, and then you would be free to sign into another system. Yeah, here's hoping that we can get beyond some of these archaic limitations and finally have full freedom to move accounts around.
So you mentioned that the UI is very reminiscent of Android, and that was the first thing that I noticed as well. It felt like I was looking at Marshmallow, or a heavily modified version of Marshmallow. And once the system gets in the hands of the public, hackers are going to be going at this thing like crazy. And I don't know, because of the rumors that have been floating around before we even knew what the Switch looked like of it possibly running Android, I could very well see somebody uncovering something saying that this is a modified version of Android. And honestly, it would make a lot of sense to use an existing platform. And that could also explain why it feels so, and like, sure, yeah, we've only seen we've only seen the menus, but that could explain why it feels so polished compared to the UI of the Wii or the Wii U. And honestly, I don't think that's a bad thing. And then 32 gigs of storage, we've got just over, apparently we're going to have almost 26 gigs free. That's actually not too bad. A 5 gig OS, 5 is, that's all right.
And most people are going to be playing physical games anyways, so it's not going to take up too much space.
Now you're saying that, but let's not forget that My Nintendo only works for digital purchases at the moment.
Yeah, but there are rumors, at least, that My Nintendo codes are going to come with physical purchases. Because, for example, the NES Classic Edition, and also the Famicom Mini, both the American and the Japanese one, and presumably the European one too, actually came with a code for My Nintendo coins.
And then there's, the fact that the Wii U supports micro SD cards, same thing as a 3DS. And with the micro SD standard that it supports, you're able to use up to 2 terabyte of a micro SD card. Now, such a card doesn't exist yet, but when it does, you're going to have that option. And, even just as an aside, when you look at storage and how it's advanced over the past even 10 years, being able to have 2 terabytes in something the size of your fingernails is it's unbelievable. So like I'm already planning on picking up a 128 gig micro SD card for come launch day, because I'm gonna do a combination of physical and digital games. 1-2 Switch and Mario Kart, I already know I'm gonna do those as digital because I want them to always be on the system, ready to go, for when I want to play the games. Downloads are tied to your NNID as opposed to the hardware. It does make it a big pain to have, for the stories that people, they've had their house broken into and their Wii U was stolen, or they were, their 3DS was stolen, and now they've got to beg Nintendo and get Nintendo to help them try and get all their games back.
Which I've heard lots of success stories with that, but it's still a pain in the butt.
Wouldn't you have to wait? Don't you have to do that on the PlayStation 4 as well? If someone stole your PS4,
Oh no, you don't have to do that.
No, when I upgraded my Xbox One from the original launch Xbox One to an Xbox One S, I signed in with my Xbox Live account. My entire library of Xbox One and 360 games that were available on BC were there ready and waiting for me to re-download them. I didn't have to do anything special. I didn't have to contact Microsoft for anything. And the same thing with the PS3 and the PS4 is, should be the same way, because it's tied to your account as opposed to the hardware.
But your account's like, there's a thing like a primary account where it's like a. That's what I meant.
Yeah, what the primary account means, this is the account of the person who owns the PS4.
Yeah, but you can't access those titles unless that account is the active account on that PlayStation 4. If you lost that PlayStation 4, how do you deactivate the account so you can make it primary?
You can deactivate it from the website.
Okay.
You can go to Sony's website and deactivate your account.
Can you not do that with My Nintendo?
No, you'd have to call Nintendo.
All right.
Yeah. To be completely accurate, you with your NNID do always have access to your digital games. I think there's a small sliver of time where the NNIDs had just gotten introduced and you couldn't re-download. I think it was just the Wii Virtual Console titles and WiiWare titles. But they quickly changed that, so basically all your digital purchases are tied to your account. The problem is, if you lose your 3DS or sell it before you format your 3DS or Wii U, you have to call Nintendo to disconnect your account. And so that's the tedious part. But luckily they do technically already connect your digital game library to your account, just to be completely accurate. But that said, obviously they still need to make it a little smoother experience because people need to switch systems all the time. It just happens. I dropped my 3DS in a lake, for instance, and I had to call Nintendo to get me onto my new 3DS.
Okay, hold on. You dropped your 3DS in a lake. There's a story behind this, and I want to hear it. How did this happen?
So I live by a lake, and I have this really steep slope going down into the lake. One day I decided to try to canoe all by myself. Usually you want a second person with you. I have this really big canoe, but I thought I could do it. So I put it on this slope, and it just goes down the slope like the slope was a slide. And it just launches into the lake. So I'm waiting for it to beach up somewhere. I'm running all around the shore of my lake. And finally it comes up, but it's in this very thick forested area. So I have to jump into the canoe, which is never advisable. And for some reason, my 3DS was in my pocket, and I was unaware of it. But anyways, I jump into the canoe, and then it flips over on me, so I'm under the canoe. And I'm, first of all, trying not to drown. Secondly, trying to flip the canoe back over and walking on the bed of this lake to get it out. Finally do so, feel my pocket at some point, and I realize my 3DS is in there. And that's when I decided I have to call Nintendo. So the moral of the story is don't take your 3DS with you out onto a lake, guys. It's a really bad idea. Play it safe, guys.
Let that be a lesson to us all. One thing I should mention, so you mentioned full RGB color versus limited RGB, and if you take a look at the subreddit, there's somebody had posted a really good article about the difference between full RGB and limited RGB, and how, you know what, it really doesn't matter, because a full RGB is going to be mostly used by your computer monitors, limited RGB by your televisions and watching TV. And, I don't recall the whole specifics because I just kind of read it while I was making supper. But definitely take a look at that because it does a really good job of explaining the difference between full and limited RGB color range and why, sure, it's great that it's got it, but it may not be as amazing and, that critical as some people think. Keep it going, man.
So on to the next topic, the future of Virtual Console. So Nintendo hasn't said much about the Virtual Console for the Switch, but we do know it's coming because they did say that we're getting some free classic games every month with the subscription. We'll get a free NES or Super Nintendo game every month with this online subscription. What do you think the Virtual Console is going to be like on the Switch? A lot of people have been suggesting that there's going to be GameCube games on the Switch.
Lol, they're dreaming.
I think they're dreaming too, because there's no analog triggers on the Switch. And also, I think that they just really want Melee HD.
Why would you want to play Melee HD on the Switch? Are you trying to break it? Those Joy-Cons are expensive. Isn't melting your hands with a GameCube controller enough?
I mean, we've already heard some rumors that they're coming out with something big, and it sounds like it's kind of teased a little bit of GameCube. Personally, I'd absolutely love to have GameCube games available on the Switch. The GameCube had a phenomenal library, and I'd love to be able to play that again, considering I gave my GameCube to my neighbor.
Yeah, I gave my GameCube away under similar circumstances as well. And, I mean, I think, honestly, GameCube Virtual Console games are an inevitability. We've seen Virtual Console releases for every other system so far, and the next one up is the GameCube. And in addition to that, I think there is an interview with Mr. Koizumi, and he was asked the question about whether there would be GameCube games on the Switch. And he said he could not directly answer this question, but what he can tell us is that they are doing things that are going in that direction. And so that was, to me, a good enough confirmation that we can expect something in the future. But like you guys said already, without the analog triggers, there are certain games that may not be fully compatible. Such as, I remember Super Mario Sunshine, if you halfway press the triggers in, you would just be launching a little bit of water. And if you went all the way in, you would be launching the water full blast. So I don't know how they're going to resolve that particular issue, but it looks like GameCube games are coming. Maybe not right away, but it's in the pipeline, evidently.
Well, don't forget, the Switch is going to have both... it's going to have a couple extra Z buttons compared to what the GameCube had. So they could very easily just kind of switch it up a little bit so that Z1, Z1 is, halfway, Z2 is the full way or something like that, to kind of compensate or as a workaround for not having the analog. One of the other things that that's been mentioned is the that I kind of like, and they're taking a page out of Microsoft and Sony's playbook, is the free games that you get per month, and I'm kind of looking forward to being able to get that as well, especially the NES and the Super NES games that are going to have the online functionality now. Being able to play Super Mario Kart or original Super Mario Brothers with somebody that's not sitting on my couch I think that's going to be a lot of fun, especially if you can get voice chat.
Whoa! Who wants to play Super Mario Brothers online?
Who wants to play Super Mario Kart at all?
Hey, I do it right now, guys. The only way to do it is through other means, but it is possible to play these games online through alternative means, and let's just say it's glitchy, it's a pain, and it will be really nice to finally have that be an official functionality, because when Nintendo implements these features, it's usually done well enough that you're going to have a frustration-free experience. So I'm really looking forward to this. I think the only criticism I've heard about all this is those games, the free NES, SNES games, are only available for that month. And so people think that that's pretty lame. I think it's okay. It's not a big deal. But I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on that because I'm sure there's going to be some difference of opinion on it.
I mean, the only positive I can think about it is that it would kind of keep things fresh. Other than keeping things fresh, no, it's kind of a bad move. And I really don't like the thing where you get to pick one or the other. They should really give you both. Don't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I do think we should get both, honestly. I mean, I do understand from a financial perspective why they're trying to trying to stretch things out a bit.
But at the same time, it costs them nothing.
Yeah, there's probably little to no overhead in development.
Hello, they had to make an emulator. What are you talking about?
Because remember that Eurogamer article and video not too long ago? They found out that Nintendo actually downloaded Mario illegally off the internet to sell to us.
That's just the ROM, which they own the license to anyway. They had to make an emulator that works on the Switch.
That's right. There is an emulator aspect of it, so it's not that they're doing absolutely nothing. And of course, to implement online functionality, I'm sure there is a number of manipulations to whatever background code is at work. They have to develop that as well. So it's not that there's no overhead. I think it's just that they highly prize their IP and they don't give it away too easily. And with the cost of the online services being so low, what is it, $18 to $26 a year?
Yeah, something like that.
I can see why they're hesitant to let us keep those games forever. That doesn't mean I wouldn't, in a perfect world, want to keep those games, but I can see their perspective is what I'm saying.
Well, don't forget, they're having these free games that are going to come out, or, if they do it properly, and they release them strategically and on a semi-regular schedule, there's going to be an almost endless supply of games. So in between the big releases of the Switch titles, they can have the free games that are going to come out, tide you over for a while, and then you go on to the next big Switch release. I'm just hoping that there's going to be at least a couple of games that they don't take away, such as Super Mario Kart. Being able to play the original Super Mario Kart online flawlessly is going to be great, and maybe it would be a dream come true if, on the anniversary of the original Super Mario Kart, they gave Super Mario Kart with online free for everybody forever. That would be awesome, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that'd be pretty awesome.
As far as adding online goes to these games, I wonder if it'll just literally they'll be adding multiplayer to games that already have it, or if they'll do they'll maybe soup up something like something like a balloon fight for like 8-player online lobbies or something like that.
I doubt it.
But then if it's gonna be like that, if they did that, then what's the point? Okay, they're adding online to these games, but if they're not gonna add lobbies and make bigger online arenas, then what's the point? You know how many games are worth playing online on the SNES and NES?
That's a good point.
I mean, maybe that's why they're giving them such limited release, because I was thinking just now, it's not necessarily very appealing to have to pay, say, $5 to $10 to have these games forever. I mean, personally, I can understand that, because I've often bought games that I play for 2 weeks and then I never play them again, and I think that is only more likely with these virtual console titles, even with the online. So I think they possibly understand that people don't want to have to purchase these games in order to enjoy those online experiences, and that's why they're giving us a month-long access to it. And it kind of reminds me of what Nintendo did in the past with the Satellaview, which I think was a service only available in Japan, and it's where people downloaded the games. The SNES would connect to a satellite, and it would download these games. And you would have the ability to play certain portions of these games.
He's right. I know exactly what you're talking about. It is a lot like that, yeah.
Yeah, and so I think, part of the misunderstanding is that it's not about owning these games. It's about having this sort of online download experience. I think it's kind of a callback to that, but it's hard to know that if you were in Japan, because we didn't get to experience that over here in the States.
Expanding on that, a lot of the games that were offered from Satellaview were really just like modified versions of existing games. Like there was like 3 different mods for Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. once again, expanding on my previous point, I really feel they're going to have to modify these to make them worth it. Because, okay, let's take Matt's Mario Kart example. If they just threw online on that, you want to play 2-player Mario Kart for real? That's what you want? Especially whenever Mario Kart 8's already available on the console? No, that's not what you want. How about F-Zero? F-Zero is not even multiplayer.
Yeah.
So, like, I hope they beef them up. I'm trying to see Ice Climbers 8-player. I'm trying to see 36-man races in F-Zero. I mean, go all out. Because we're only going to have them for, like, what they say? We're going to have them for a month and then they switch over to the new game? I mean, go all out.
Yeah, one thing that I do think that they're going to do is, I think they're going to use these games to advertise upcoming games. So, for example, if there's Super Mario Odyssey's coming out soon, they'll throw a couple Mario games up there. Or if Mario Kart 8's coming out soon, they'll throw up a couple Mario Kart games. That kind of thing. I think that they're going to do that. And then, when they put Metroid on there, people are going to freak out.
Disagree. All these Metroid fans coming out of the woodwork have literally never played a Metroid game. Said it.
Still, they're going to freak out. They're going to be like, oh my god, this means that Nintendo's going to finally release Metroid. And then they don't.
But Nintendo's been releasing Metroid pretty steadily, though. Hello? They had a 3DS game and a Wii game. That's way more than a lot of other franchises can say.
Hello, Federation Force. Best Metroid game.
That game gets so much unnecessary flack from people who haven't even played it, just like Other M.
Yeah.
I quite liked Other M.
See, so did I.
The baby, and the baby, or the baby, of the baby, or the baby. Babies cry, the baby.
How about we go over to the game of the week? Which, Frobro, since you mod our Fire Emblem Heroes, and the game is Fire Emblem Heroes, how about you tell us some stuff about Fire Emblem Heroes?
Well, I'm sure most of our listeners are already really familiar with the game. It's Nintendo's next step into the mobile market. It's got a lot of, let's say, more traditional ideals as far as mobile games go. It's got the gacha. It's got the waifus. I mean, it's got the PvP arena. It's got the stamina, the microtransaction. It's all there. I mean, the story is practically non-existent, but that's also par for the course. And I know what you're thinking. Some of these viewers are like, but hey, Brave Exvius. Nah, that's like the only one. Look at like Final Fantasy Record Keeper. There's no story in that game. For the unfamiliar, in that game, you're basically a librarian, and some unnamed dark force is taking over the pictures or whatever. That's literally the story. You basically just replay through Final Fantasy stories. There's no story there. Pokemon Go, another one, didn't have a story. Super Mario Run also doesn't have a story. It's a real continuing trend. Clash of Clans, no story. I feel when I see people complain about the story is so cliche or non-existent, that's like, who actually cares? Did you actually pick up this game for the story?
Yeah, who cares about... Nobody cares about the story in Flappy Bird.
Has anyone... you guys got accounts on Fire Emblem Heroes?
I played it for a couple hours.
And then what happened?
I got bored.
Wow. What happened? Like, what exactly got you bored? Run out of stamina?
It's just...
Didn't want to wait?
I'm just not too into the gameplay of Fire Emblem, to be honest.
Fair enough. It's a pretty niche genre.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Matt?
Aside from something like Solitaire or Turbo Dismount, I tend to not really play games on my phone. If I'm taking a game with me on the road, I'm taking my 3DS.
Fair enough.
I can't do really too many games on my phone. Well, I don't know. I'm just not a phone gamer, I guess.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, mobile games, I haven't been the biggest partaker of them. I did do a lot of Pokemon Go. Fire Emblem Heroes, I have downloaded it, and I have played it for 30 minutes or so, but I don't know. I love Fire Emblem, but I haven't played enough of it to really know what I'm doing, and so Fire Emblem Heroes may be a good training ground for that, honestly. I don't know. It seems kind of like simplified Fire Emblem for casual play.
That's exactly what it is.
Well, hey, then that's the training app for people who need to get into Fire Emblem, and people like me who haven't actually played through a full game of any part of the series. Maybe it'll be pretty good for that. Yeah, but I mean, in terms of expecting a robust story, I would never expect that from a mobile game, and I don't I'm surprised that people are surprised that there is not a story, or much of one, honestly. So, I don't know. When people complain about things like that, you just have to wonder, wonder what they... Yeah, they need to reset their expectations, maybe, to put it charitably.
If you're listening and you want to hear or see some more about Fire Emblem Heroes, you should come on down to our Fire Emblem Heroes. We got everything. Waifus, memes. I mean, what else do we need?
Waifu memes?
Oh, we got those too.
Oh, man.
You think I'm joking, but I'm not. We got waifu memes.
Well, I'm down. Well, thanks, Robo, for the Game of the Week discussion. We're going to toss things over to a Wada fan. We've got some subscriber questions. So these are questions from the community.
It looks like we have a number of great questions here. We could only select a few of them, so my apologies to the questions that didn't make it into this episode. You can always try again, and hopefully we continue to hear from you all. Our first question is from Wizardbeard. Wizard without an A. And Wizardbeard asks, people were instantly upset at the announcement of Nintendo having a paid online service, which we've talked about quite a bit. But any console user that also has an Xbox or PS4 already willingly pays for online service. If Nintendo and Nintendo fans want to step up their game in this realm, why would the fans expect anything else? So what do you think, Fro, bro?
Yo, gamers are easily the most entitled consumer base of all time, of anything ever. I remember a few years back, you could see people complaining about how bad Club Nintendo was, but now these days, if you didn't know what Club Nintendo was, you'd think it was the second coming of Jesus. It's the same thing with this here. If you go online, you'll see people complaining like, the Wii U's so laggy, I can't get a good game of Smash in, or anyone really just complaining about how archaic some of Nintendo's online decisions are. And here they are stepping it up into the next realm, and we get people complaining about it before they even know what it is.
I think I know where most of the complaining is coming from, though. I think it's coming from the PC Master Race types. Because if you go on our PC Master Race, you'll see a lot of people saying, oh, well, Nintendo and PC is the best combination. So there are a lot of people who are just Nintendo and PC is what they play. And people who play only on PC, they're used to not paying for online. On PC, online is really good because you can host your own server. And I think that maybe a lot of this complaining comes from people who aren't used to paying online.
Well, rip, because they're going to have to get over that real fast.
Well, they're obviously not MMO players, because there's a lot of MMOs out there that are still pay to play.
Yeah, exactly. I'm paying a monthly fee just to play World of Warcraft. I'm stuck 10 years in the past when it comes to PC gaming, but I don't know. I've always felt that people will do whatever it takes to play games like that, so why not Nintendo? And if you haven't noticed, over the past, 5-7 years, ever since Nintendo started online gaming to begin with, there's been a lot of games that should have been shoo-ins for online play that did not have that functionality. And it's because Nintendo could only dedicate so many resources to online play. So they had to, if you were to read a lot of the Iwata Asks interviews, or if you were to read just any interviews, you could detect every now and again that they had actually pre-selected during the development periods which games would have online and which wouldn't. So I think what will happen with the online services being paid for as a separate thing is we'll see the introduction of more games that could really enjoy the use of online. Sarcasm.
Do you mind going through a list of those games? The ones that were, quote, shoo-ins for having online?
Yeah, let me give you a few of my ideas. I personally think Mario Party should have been online.
Stop talking. We're done. We're done with this one. Mario Party can't go online. Not with that lag. You'll never finish a game. Have you played Fortune Streets? Have you played Fortune Streets?
Hey, guys, you know what? That Mario Party is one of the games I actually do play online now through alternative means. And I have a lot of fun doing it. My friends don't live close to me anymore. I've moved all around the country. And so, for me, online play is just necessary for games like that.
I think Mario Party is only good for online if you can punch the person next to you when they take your stars.
Imagine trying to go through a 20-turn game with strangers on the internet. It's not happening. especially with lag during mini games. Why would you want that? I see a lot of people complain about the evolution of Mario Party. They don't like the cart thing. But I feel like those people haven't tried to play in the last decade. People don't pay attention when it's not their turn. You'll have to constantly remind them that it's their turn and they need to roll. Whenever everyone's in the same cart, it keeps everyone engaged because now your position is always being moved on the board. You need to watch. And I feel the latest Mario Party, what is it called? Star Rush? That's the one? Yeah.
Star Rush.
That one is like the final evolution, the final form, if you will, of Mario Party, where it's got simultaneous turns. I have no idea why that is the worst selling Mario Party, despite it being actually the best.
It's worse selling the Mario Party DS?
Yes, it definitely is.
Huh.
Well, isn't part of it might just be a lack of interest in general, just lack of awareness of the game. The other thing is, aren't you only able to play as Toads in the game?
Oh, in that specific mode, it's the Toad. I think it's called Toad Rush. In that specific mode, you are Toads, and the way it works is on the board is a little bit more open-ended, less like Monopoly, like Mario Party normally is, more like Chutes and Ladders almost. The way you can move literally on the board, and all the other characters are like recruitable party members. So like you form a Dragon Quest type party. And they're AI that join the minigames. So in those games, when you do a minigame, there's like 16 characters in at once. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Well, but with the simultaneous play idea, for instance, perhaps online could work. I do understand when it's the old-fashioned boards where it's taking forever. I don't even pay attention when I'm playing with a person in the same room, much less online. Anyways,
it's the same. You'll still get the same people who won't finish. You'll still get rage critters. You'll still have lag. It's Mario Party and online just don't mix.
Especially because a Mario Party game takes so long.
Well, you know what? I'm willing to concede that, but I still think there are some other games that we could see go online.
Star Fox. That's one. There it is. Online dogfight. Let's go.
Super Mario 3D World could have been online.
Even New Super Mario Bros. U could have been online, because you can play up to 4 people all on the same system. They're all playing at the same time. I mean, like any game where you've got multiple people you could technically play it online.
Yeah, I guess, really, the possibilities are endless. It's only limited by the imagination of the game developers and their resources. And so paid online gives Nintendo and probably third-party developers even greater resources. And so I'm looking forward to it. $26 at worst. $26 a year is the estimate, I think. Actually, it was announced by the president during an investors meeting. So that is the price, roughly, 18 to 26. That's not a big deal to me. I pay $40, $50 for PlayStation online. And
it's 60 now.
Yeah, they went up.
Yeah, well, I got in right before the price increase, so...
Oh, he got grandfathered in with it.
This next question comes from The Amazing Law. And The Amazing Law asks, what's your favorite video game and why? So I'm going to start with Trainass. Trainass, what is your favorite video game?
That's a pretty loaded question. That's a tough one, actually.
You want to just skip that question? Do you want to answer it?
I can't think of my favorite video game either, because...
If you lump those two questions, the next one about the best designed Nintendo game and favorite game, I got one right now for you.
Well, hey, why don't you tell us about it now so we can give our listeners a teaser of what's coming up?
Bruh, Yoshi's Island is probably the best game of all time. It is ADHD personified. Do you know how many mechanics exist in one stage and don't show up anywhere else in the game? I mean... I don't think you understand. That game is literally perfect. If you haven't seen the speedrun, it's like 3 hours. Go check it out. It sounds long. I'm telling you. It's the best game of all time. It's got that easy to pick up, because everyone can play Yoshi's Island. It's so simple. But the Hundo run, they're throwing the eggs, the infinite flutters, the routing, the movement tech, the swag. I don't think you understand. Maybe just go look at it. I can't do it justice.
This isn't. I don't want to call it my favorite, but I want to call it like my favorite to play sometimes. This is a really obscure one. Bonk's Adventure for the Game Boy. It's not the TurboGrafx one. It's not the NES one. It's a totally original game for the Game Boy. and it's the only game that I can quote-unquote speed run. I can't, like, I don't know any, like, speed run tactics, but I can beat it in about half an hour.
Sounds like you've really mastered the game. How long do you think it takes on average for the average person to get through it?
For the first time ever, probably 3 hours. I don't think I have favorite games, though. I think I have, like, favorite games for consoles. DS, Tetris DS.
Yeah.
Tetris DS is
But it's
the
not the
best
best DS
Tetris.
game, though.
But it's one of the best DS games. And it's the best Tetris. And it's Nintendo themed.
Wait, weren't you the one telling me that Tetris was bad?
No. That's Tetris Ultimate for 3DS. The Ubisoft Tetris.
Who owns Tetris?
The Tetris company owns Tetris. And they license it out to different companies at different times. And right now, Ubisoft has the license to put Tetris on consoles. EA's had it. Yeah, EA's had it before. Nintendo's had it before. Right now, EA has the license to put it on mobile.
I absolutely love Tetris DS. I played that game so much that I was starting to see Tetris blocks everywhere. And when the Wii was launched, I played Tetris DS so much, and I don't think I'd played Tetris DS or even any DS game multiplayer so much before that point. And I just remember pretty much people stopped wanting to play against me because every game I'd always come out on top, and I was just frustrating everybody.
And it's got the Switch beat, because while the Switch has 8-player, Tetris DS has 10-player.
What?
Wow.
Okay. Online competitive Tetris win?
Matt or Trainas, I wanted to give you another shot because I think you thought things through a bit. Do you have any particular games that you could say are at least in the top 10 for you?
So I'd have to say Super Mario World is probably up there near the top for me. It's a game I can play over and over and over again. It's easy enough that I can, make my way through most of the game, but it's challenging enough that I'm still finding new things that, new things to unlock and new things that I hadn't found before. So I would have to say, Super Mario World is probably one of my favorite games to play.
It's really timeless too. I think it's aged quite well. The graphics are still very appealing. And I mean, really, you could say any Mario game is timeless, at least among the 2D or 2D style platformers.
Land is definitely not
Which
timeless.
One?
Super Mario Land.
Oh, well,
Garbage.
I loved Super Mario Land. Like plain tiny Mario, like Super Mario Land 1, I'm assuming you mean. I love that game.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I just beat it for the first time 6 months ago. And
the physics really get
yeah, everyone hates the physics because when you fall, you just you drop like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like you're just this boulder falling from the sky. Before we move on, I wanted to talk to you about my favorite game, which is heavily featured for the next few weeks on our subreddit in the CSS and in the game club. It's The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, and it's a really fun little Zelda game for me. It was one of my first, so this is a nostalgia-based favorite game for me. But I really liked it a lot. The Windfish is just so bizarre. It's freaking awesome. And, like, I don't know how else to describe it. It's got this really good story, too. And I found out recently that Koizumi, when I was reading up on Koizumi after the January 12th Switch presentation, I found out he had a lot of influence on that game. And his general design philosophy is to have really rich stories. Koizumi tried to hide little story elements throughout the game, and I think that's what made it such a fun, mysterious game. And so, for those reasons and more, I would say that that's my favorite. But hey, guys, this has been a lot of fun, but we got to move on to our next question, and this one is from Captain Ornithopter. In your opinion, what is the most intuitively designed Nintendo game? I.e. teaches players game mechanics without tutorials, control schemes. So what do you think, Razor Beams?
Well, I would say Super Mario Brothers. It's kind of a cliche answer, but let's just take 1-1 for example. At the very beginning, you walk forward, and if you don't jump, you get killed by a Goomba. Okay? But if you do jump to try to hit the Goomba, you'll almost definitely hit the question block, which will make the mushroom come out. And it comes in a way where it's going to hit you. So you wind up getting the mushroom without even trying to, and then you find out, oh wow, the mushroom makes Mario big. And then you come to some pipes, and you have to jump over them, and then you get to higher pipes, and then you're like, oh man, I have to hold the A button longer to jump to the higher pipes. And then you might wind up hitting the secret block with a 1-up.
And then die.
Yeah, and then die. Or you might fall down the pit, and you find out, oh no, pits hurt me. And also, there's that little thing where there's the stairs, and you climb up, and then you could accidentally fall down, but you can jump back out. But then the second one is over a pit, so you can't jump back out. And it's just a perfectly designed level that teaches you the mechanics 100%.
Yeah, you know what? That is often cited as one of the best games that demonstrates a game that just teaches you without without making it explicit. So Frobro, do you have any other games that you thought of, or are you believing Yoshi's Island alone?
Nah, man, Yoshi's Island is like literally perfect. If you haven't seen 1-1, it's kind of like if you've played Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, where like the first level really isn't a level and you can't even go back to it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, in Yoshi's Island, the first level, like there's some sunflowers singing, minding their business. They're no harm to you, but you still eat them anyway. You learn when you absorb them. Some enemies can't be turned into eggs. You learn the ways to throw eggs. There's a little question block. It tells you the buttons. You can change the controls right there. I mean, it looks like it's for kids, and you can even play like as a kid. You can go through the game perfectly fine and beat it. That's just the surface. Nintendo's got a lot of games where like it's easy to play casually, but if you want to get into it, like you can. Off the top of my head, games like Metroid's like that, Legend of Zelda's like that, every 3D Mario, all 2D Marios. I mean, Yoshi's Island.
Not Skyward Sword.
I think The Legend of Zelda is still kind of an example of a game that can teach you certain aspects of it. Like those hidden mysteries was like a completely other thing. But when you just go into that first cave and it says it's dangerous to go alone, take this, you got the sense that what you're supposed to do is start going out there and slashing enemies and start your exploration. And, after that, it kind of leaves you hanging.
Whoa. That is some serious tinted glasses right there. We are not going to look at Legend of Zelda's hidden dungeons and secrets as a beneficial thing. Things that were indistinguishable from actual...
That one bush that you have to burn, there is nothing that indicates.
Any wall you have to bomb, there's no indicator. And then when you find it, the stupid is a secret to everyone. What does that even mean, Nintendo?
Well, that about wraps it up. Thanks for joining us on Hello Nintendo. Tune in for our next episode on March 8th, which is our Switch special. We'll be discussing our first hands-on experiences, what we like and dislike so far, and our thoughts on some launch titles. We may even have a special guest host who is not part of the mod team. Find out who, and more, next time on Hello Nintendo.
Hello, Nintendo!